We are live, and this is Coach Arnie, and this is the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network TV and podcast, #1 Internet Talk Network. And this is my second show on the new time slot. This is a Health, Love, and Life adventure show, and we're going to have some more fun. I'm still working. There's my phone number, email, and we're making some changes there too. My phone number is still the same, but we're making some email still the same. But we're making some changes. So, because actually I was just talking to, there's our topic, live until you die. I was just talking to our gracious host, Cece, about, changing. It's okay to change. It's okay to make changes in your life. It's okay to go for it, not go for it. What it's not okay to do is just kind of exist. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us, and young or old. If we're existing, and that's why it kind of was popped into my head this week. Live until you die. It's something I've been talking about in workshops and seminars, especially before COVID hit. And it's probably even more important now since this whole COVID thing. It's like, are you kidding me? I'm not going to get political, but there's a lot of people out there that are half my age. They're already dead, and they just haven't made it official yet. I choose not to participate. I choose to live until I die. And we're going to talk about, what does that all mean? Where did it come from? And I really don't know. I mean, I did some homework on it, and that term, a lot of coaches, speakers have used that are more in the growth field. Like I said, we'll discuss it a little bit, but when we choose to live a life of fear and almost ultra safety, risk averse. I mean, not just risk averse. I mean, risk averse. I mean, you're gonna. We used to tease people. There's a movie probably. God, can't remember the actor. I want to say John Travolta, but I don't think it is. But we're talking almost 40 years ago. We called it Bubble Boy, because mommy and daddy, he had an immune system breakdown, and they wrapped him in bubble wrap, basically in a bubble. Couldn't do anything because he couldn't be exposed to anything. Sadly, I see people living like that today with their children, themselves. It's just not living. It's not living. So let's kind of back our way into this thing here with live until you die. A lot of this came from the cancer treatment. Take from somebody who has not had cancer but lived with an amazing mom that had cancer, and I remember the highs and lows. I remember doing a talk at an event and on her recovery, and then literally, 2 months later, she was re-diagnosed with an even more aggressive cancer. And but I'll be honest with you, at that point, my mom chose to live until she died. But she wasn't really living. Even though she was an amazing lady, she wasn't exactly what I would call the most positive person in the world, which I think maybe led to some of this. But she was also pretty pragmatic. But that's only because she had lived such a tough life. See, people don't understand today, and that's why when I talk to young people about their life and what they're going through, I go, you have no idea. Especially people that were born and raised during the Depression. Most people don't even know what the Depression was, and just the hard life that she lived. I was telling somebody yesterday, we were talking about, I don't know how it came up, but we talked about my grandma, who was born in 1910, lived to be 90, but could have lived to be 190. But again, didn't understand all that. But she actually died in her bedroom, tying her shoes, getting ready to go for her walk in the morning. That's living until you die. And she really did, even though she was a different kind of character. But she was taking care of her little brother when she was 6 years old. You know, she didn't even go to school. And she could read and write. She taught herself how to read and write in 2 languages, English and Spanish. And she wrote beautifully. She could read anything. And she was a big, voracious reader. So it just goes to show you, you don't need what you think you need. You just need to live and to want to live. And that lady did. I mean, she was on her own at 6. How's that? Figuring stuff out, scavenging for food. And, you know, and we're not talking about the kind of scavenging they do today, because we're talking living out in the woods, and, you know, eating things that, you know, that are actually healthier than stuff that people eat today, but having to figure that out at that age. So, but living, surviving and living, and being able to teach and talk about it. So the cancer field is where this came from, because people get diagnosed with cancer and some just want to die. Some do. Doesn't take long. Some want to say, hey, look, I'm going to make these next weeks, months, years the best of my life. And they just go for it. And they're not going to let whatever's going through them those last years, months, weeks, days of their life define who they are. They're going to define who they are. They're going to live, love on their terms. And that's kind of where this came from many years ago. And so, but we all get that choice every day anyways, and we're going to talk about that, to live life on our terms anyways. I mean, we do. I mean, look, if you're stuck in a job or a relationship or a situation right now, and I don't know where you're at, if you're here in the United States, I mean, you've got options. I don't care who you are. Even the lowest person on the totem pole here in this country has many more options than somebody might have in a third world country. You just don't know it. And if you do know it, you don't believe it. And if you believe it, you don't want to do it. Which means you have options. Because if you don't want to do something that can make you better or make you more, make your life more enjoyable, then that's an option. You're choosing not to. You're choosing not to live. You're choosing basically to die. Like I said earlier, you just haven't made it official yet. And I don't want to say that to be crass, but I'm saying it to make a point that you get to choose. And so, look, live until you die is going beyond the biology of dying. And that maybe that's a better way to say this, because dying and living is biology. It's just what we do. We live, we're born. There was a funny show that used to be on, it was the Raymond, everything to do about Raymond or something. Somebody let me know. Cece will let me know. But it was a comedy. I enjoyed watching it, even though Raymond was meant to be a knucklehead every day. But his dad one time was telling him, look, you're born, you live, you die. And he kept saying that throughout this episode. And it was funny, but it was direct, but it was true. And that's why most humor based on truth is funny. But you're born, you live, you die. That's pretty much it. So it's kind of like that old the poem, and we've all used it. Anybody us that are speakers have used it in presentations. They call it the dash. You know, you're born, you die, and then you got the dash. What do you do with the dash is basically who you are. Basically, that defines you. So you get to fill in the dash. You don't have anything to do with the being born part. And you have the dash actually has a little to do with the end part, unless it happens maybe tragically. But it's that dash. It's super important. So basically taking on opportunity that comes to you. You know, when I do my prayer and meditation every day, I pray about that. I pray about opportunity. I pray about being presented with opportunity, you know, because I'm looking for opportunity. I'm looking for a chance to do something big and bold and dramatic and that's memorable. A lot of people aren't. They're looking for a way to, I want to avoid that because that's a little scary. Yeah, it is scary. It is scary to, you know, I think the last show I did, I was going to the Grand Canyon. Well, I went for the umpteenth time this year, getting ready for my big event at the end of the year in another probably month. It could be a month from today or no more than another week after that. Actually, I could go earlier depending on the weather, but so I went to the Grand Canyon, you know, and it was another great adventure. Crazy things happen again, but and I made it out of there within less than an hour of a horrendous downpour. Horrendous. Went there thinking I could run into thunderstorms on the North Rim. That day that I went, the weather changed, and it was showing storms on the North Rim, and I actually had that little feeling right here. And I went, "You're doing this. Just go." And I went, and then I started, and it was fantastic. But if I would have delayed, not gone, I was like, oh, wish I would have done that. Wish I could have, would have. Should have, could have, would have, right? How many of us do that? Because we don't take opportunity. We overanalyze it, and we worry about it, and we don't do it. So taking on opportunity. Living on your terms. And using my example of the Grand Canyon, I could listen to people. I mean, that whole week, because I have friends that are kind of watching this for me now. They're kind of my Grand Canyon groupies. And so they're watching. Hey, Arnie, watch that weather. Looks like it could storm. Or, hey, watch this. Hey, watch that. And I love it. We all love attention. But at the same time, I'm doing this on my terms. I talked to my coach the other night about my upcoming event here at the end of October or early November, and we talked about doing some cool things. And he asked about my recovery and what I'm doing, how my recovery training session went last weekend, and how great it was. And we were just going over living life. And here, you know, he just turned 50, and I'm 62. But I'm living life on my terms. Now, it doesn't always bode well for others, like my daughters and even my wife, that worry. But I try to get them not to worry by how I'm living my life, how I'm training, how I'm preparing. So living life on my terms is about preparation and showing people, hey, look, I'm prepared to go through what I'm going through. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to make you feel safer, because if I wasn't training, if I wasn't eating right, if I wasn't staying healthy, and I said, hey, I'm going to go do the Grand Canyon, my wife would think I'm freaking crazier than I am. My daughters would really worry about, Dad, you can't do that. But they're not saying that. They're saying, wow, okay, because they know what I'm doing to prepare. And so opportunity, living life on my terms, and being grateful. I mean, every morning I am going through my gratitude list and what I'm grateful for. It's so important to my life. And I think to me, that's a big part of living. What are you grateful for? What are you thankful for the opportunity to be able to do? And to me, it's, my health, my family, and just the ability to be able to do what I'm doing. And for more, I mean, I'm working with 80-year-olds now that are doing really cool things. And so in my mind, when I tell people, I'm saying, man, I want to be able to do what he's doing when I'm his age. And this is somebody that I'm getting to that point, who is struggling, who now is. So I have evidence in my head that says, I can do this because I'm showing that he can do it. So being grateful, very important. And then we're going to leave with this point before we take a break, is focus on what matters. Folks, so when we focus on what matters most in our lives, that's a big thing. So let's take a quick little break here. Cece's going to share some information for us, and we'll be right back. Just stay on that point. Focus on what matters. We are back with the Health, Love, and Life and Adventure Show, and we're talking about living until you die. And so, but focus on what matters. I mean, I think a lot of us really struggle because we don't focus on the big things. We focus on the minor things. I'm going to share a quick little story with you, and it's again another. Something that a lot of us coaches and teachers, speakers will use in presentations. There was a teacher that had a class, and in front of the class, she had a big jar, like a big giant, one of those big tea jars. And in front of her, she had a pile of rocks, a pile of smaller rocks, and then some gravel, and then some sand. And she asked the class, she goes, what should I put in? We want to put as much stuff in this jar as possible. As much as we can. We want to fill it up to the top. And so she asked the class, what should we put in first? And she had all different kind of names. Suggestions. Some wanted to put sand in. You fill that whole jar up with sand. Yeah, but then you don't touch the rocks or the gravel or the other rocks. And so finally they agreed to put in the big rocks. Okay, so she put in as many big rocks as she could. And she was able to put a few of those in there. And then she goes, what next? And again, everybody wanted everything from the sand to the smaller rocks. She goes, why don't we put some of the smaller rocks in? So we put some of the smaller rocks in. And then again, same thing, asked, and everybody agreed finally on the gravel. Let's put some of the gravel in. So the gravel began to fill up the spaces between the smaller rocks and the big rocks. And then after that, they said, now what? So they've used things from all three different piles now. Then they had the sand. So they filled it up with sand. And all the sand filled in all the rest. And then she goes, no, we're not done yet. And then she grabbed a pitcher of water and she poured water in there. And water filled up the rest of the space all the way. So that jar was jam-packed with stuff. And that only happens, guys, if we start off with the big things. If we focus on what matters. Because if we just fill our jar up with sand every day with just meaningless crap that most of us do, our life isn't complete. But if we fill our life up with big things, memorable things, things that I'll leave you with a quote at the end, but stuff that we remember. And then other things that we fill up around that. And we're living. I don't care how old you are. You're 15, 25, 35, 45, 55, 95, 105. You're living. You're living. But if you never do anything that's big in your life, are you really living? And I'm not saying you have to do what I do and climb, go into the Grand Canyon or climb big mountains and that's just stuff I just did it hasn't even been 10 years. It hasn't even been 10 years that I started this. Before that, I was doing other things. So some of you that are like in your 30s and 40s going, oh, I can't. Well, maybe, but I didn't start doing adventure runs until I was 53 years old. So focus on what matters. And I don't know what matters for you. I know what matters for me. The big stuff in your life are my faith, my family, my kids, grandkids now. But I don't know what matters for you, what you value most in your life. My health. I always get in this argument. It never fails. Well, I can show you where it doesn't say focus on yourself. Well, no, you can show me that all you want. But if I'm not healthy and strong and mentally right, what good is it? What good does it say, hey, you got to focus on your family? But if I'm healthy and strong and I've got tons of energy, man, I can give a lot to my family, can't I? And then my friends. And then my clients. But if I'm not, it doesn't matter. And I don't get healthy by climbing mountains. Actually, I just got a report back from my doctor that, he wanted me to drink some more water. It looked like I was and I told him what I had done the last month or so. He goes, whoa. He goes, because I said I feel good. He goes, but, so we're going to really focus on maximizing some things next year. Again, see that growth mindset, but I really want to focus on, but I'm not going to change anything now with a month to go before we're going to tweak, but we're not going to change anything. But if you're not constantly improving, then what are you doing? Are you stagnating? Are you just waiting to die? I don't want to do that. I want to focus on health and because to me, health is everything. After my spiritual, after God, health is everything because that gives me the energy to do things for my family. It really does. It's funny. Some of the homework I did on this, they showed that some of this may have come from the life of Moses, who I like to use as an example because it is in the Bible. He lived until he was 120, but he was perfectly healthy when he was 120. Perfect eyesight. Perfect in every way until he died at 120. So to me, that's what's possible. That's what's possible. Because look, we only have from today forward. What happened yesterday, what happened last year, what happened to you 25 years ago, fine. It was a launching pad. Okay? And it was something to learn from. It might have been a horrible experience. It might have been a terrible relationship. It might have been a horrific illness. I had a client, and I think she's still around, which means she's close to 100. And I worked with her when she was 95. And I used to love talking to her because she had lived through so much in her life. At the time, so that would be 5 years ago, she would have been born in like 1920, maybe 1921. So she was a teenager during the Depression. And but she had lived through so much. She had lived through tuberculosis. She had lived through cancer. She had a heart problem. Her husband died, but she didn't have any children. Her sister, she ended up taking care of her sister, her older sister. Just one thing after another, after another, which to me made her stronger. And then we talked about the fact that she smoked, but she learned how to not smoke, whatever. So she might have a cigarette here and there or not, go without it for a month or two. But that's kind of how she did everything. Everything was calm. She had a very calm spirit about her. Even when the last living relative in her family passed away, she had nobody to give me. She even gave me a family Bible because there was no one left in her family to give it to. All her relatives had passed away. And I don't know how deep she studied this, but pretty sharp lady. And but even when that last living relative passed away, she was calm as could be, cool as a cucumber, because everybody deals with grief differently. Some people fall apart. Some people do what she did and just as calm as cool as a cucumber. And some people might call that insensitive, and she definitely was not insensitive. But that's how she was able to live a long life. And she was still independent, living on her own. She was actually still driving she still drove. I want to say she still drove. So at 95, she was still driving. How's that? And, but that's what's possible when you live until you die. But she just lived life on her terms. And so what you learn from the past can propel you into the future. And, but some people, when bad things happen, they die. Mentally, spiritually. Their soul dies. And like I said earlier, they just haven't made it official yet. So it's something to think about, because a lot of us have been going through a lot of horrific things here the last year and a half. And a lot of people have died spiritually. Their soul has died. They, again, have not made it official yet. So what I want to mention here, I want to mention 2, 4, 6, 7 things that I think are tools that we can use to live a better life, to live that life of memory, to live until you die. If you use these tools, you might be that person that says, or be that person that people are saying, wow, that person's living. The first one is always the most powerful, isn't it? Here it comes. Ready? Exercise. Movement. Just got off the phone a little while ago with a good friend. She's a nurse and very spiritual, strong spiritual person. And we were talking about what she does. She does more mind stuff. I do more body stuff. And we're gonna meet and combine forces a little bit here. But how powerful exercise is. If it were a drug, it would be the most powerful drug on the planet. exercise, move. Now, not everybody moves in an efficient way, and some people move and they harm themselves if they do it. But you know what? Let's move first, and then let's figure that other stuff out later, instead of hyper analyzing it so you don't move at all. Well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to move. Even if you just move your arms, move your fingers. You know, I have a client that we start with every day. Every day I work with him. We start with this, moving his thumb. Then we move his forefinger. Then we move this finger. And then this move. That hasn't moved yet. And then we can move this. And when I used to do a lot of work with paralysis, and he's got some, but he's not a spinal cord injury, I would have people come into my office and I'd say, what do you want to do? And they go, I want to walk. Because I got accused by the so-called smart people of telling people they're going to walk. I said, no, I never told anybody they were going to walk. But I never told anybody they weren't. Because what I would do, and this is exactly how I explained it, even to people on my own staff that didn't get this, I would say, what do you want to do? I never told anybody what they were going to do. And they go, I want to walk. I go, okay, cool. What can you do now? Today, remember, today forward. And they go, well, I can move my wrist. I can shrug my shoulders. I go, can you move your thumb? And they go, I can move my thumb. Cool. Well, let's start there. And we're going to move our way up the chain. And who knows? I don't know where it ends. And neither do you, and neither does anybody else. And when you're done trying to move stuff, I guess you're done. But when I've seen people walk, then I'll never stop encouraging somebody to move, because I know what movement can do. I know what movement can do. So exercise, eating better. We all can eat better. Heck, removing processed foods and extra sugar is 90% of the battle. The last 10% are just what you're going to do to kind of sharpen it up. 90% of the way there. Get rid of processed food and extra sugar. Drink more water. I had my doctor looked at my blood work the other day. He thought I was dehydrated, and I'm drinking like close to 3 liters a day, but I'm doing what I'm doing. And I said, thanks. I'm gonna try to drink more water. So if I'm drinking 3 liters a day and you're drinking a couple of cupfuls a day, maybe you could do a little better too. Maybe, if you want. I want to, because I want to. If drinking more water is going to make me feel a little more energy, I'm going to drink more water. So I already did it today. Actually, during the break, I had to run to the bathroom, but this is empty. I've got over 2 liters going today. So I'm going to break through my 3 liters breakthrough. That's my goal. I try to get it done early. So sleep better. So for me, if I drink too much water, then I may have some broken sleep. But for you, try to get a little more sleep. It's going to help you live better. If you need supplements, I try not to use as many supplements as I used to. And I try to be strategic with them. But there are some supplements that could help you, if you need some. If you're struggling with eating better food. Are you working on your spirit, your soul, your heart, your brain, your mind? I mean, are those things that you need to work on? A lot of us do. That's why I pray every day and I meditate every day. And what I learned to do as far as meditation, because I used to think, I can't do that. But you know what? I can do 2 minutes. Now I'm up to 5 minutes. So if you can sit there and meditate for 2 minutes, then maybe you can I'm at 5 minutes. To me, that's a big deal. That's an important I look forward to it every day, 5 minutes. So you can do it. And that's my soul. That's my spirit getting some work. your prayer time, whatever you need to do, whoever your higher power is. But those are 7 things that you can do. All right, so let's start to wrap this up here. I'm just going to go through some things that I think will help you live until you die. Throw out what doesn't matter. Those numbers. I just got my report. It wasn't a big one, but it was an intermediary report. But I try not to worry about numbers anymore. Let the doctor worry about that. And I'm not saying that to be crass or anything, but some people get too wound up in their numbers, cholesterol, their weight, their blood, all that stuff. If you ever talk to somebody who's living a long time, they don't worry about any of that crap. They really don't. Now, some people do, but they may not live a long life because they're too wound up with it. Hey, look, if you're doing the right things and you feel good, really? You need a number to tell you that you feel good? Some people do. So don't worry about that. Let the doctor worry about it. Surround yourself with cheerful friends. Cheerful. That's the key word there. It's important to have friends, but are your friends really your friends if they're just dragging you down? But if they're cheerful, now they're lifting you up. So I would think about that. Keep learning. Keep growing. Huge. Enjoy simple things. There's nothing I enjoy more than being out in the wilderness at night with a full moon. Some people think that's crazy. No, it's not, and I'm not listening to any music, nothing. It's just the sounds of the earth, the water running, bugs, maybe birds, hopefully not big animals, but just simple things. Or on a long hike, sometimes here close to my house, being out in the desert, and simple things, being able to play with your grandkids or sit down with your significant other and just be quiet or just enjoy their presence. Simple, but effective. Laugh. We've all heard this a million times before. I love being around people that laugh. I love it. I go to a gym where one of the head guys there, he's always, when I drive, I'll get there sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning, first thing I hear, his laugh. And and it just tells me I'm home. It's where I need to be, hearing that laugh. He's a former professional athlete. I just love his laugh. It's infectious. Feel free to share your emotions, at least with yourself. Allow yourself, if you want to, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to laugh and feel joy. Allow yourself to. Some people don't. So they don't get to experience what life gives them. I have to work on this. This is what I have to work on. I have to I don't have to be the big, tough, strong guy. I can be emotional. I'm allowed to be emotional. Surround yourself with love. We talked about cheerful friends. How about surrounding yourself with people that love you? And this is a tough one because sometimes it's not your family. Sometimes it is. Many times it is. Sometimes it's just close, intimate friends that love you. Sometimes it's animals that love you unconditionally. Surround yourself with love. Sometimes it's adventure that you love, that makes you feel, when I go to the Grand Canyon, I feel love. I can feel God's presence right there around me. I'll tell you what, you think that doesn't keep me going back and keep me working on my health and my fitness so I can enjoy that? Because if you're not healthy and fit, you can't enjoy that. I want that. I want to feel that as often as I can. And cherish your health. Cherish it. Embrace it. Gosh, look at the stories I told you guys here in the last 40 minutes or so. The 95-year-old, the different people that just lived life and went through things and embraced their health and the things that they went through in their lives. I mean, this is stuff that you need to cherish. And you don't get to experience these things, guys, if you're not healthy. If you're sick, you don't get to experience these things. You don't. And that's why people, when they go through something like cancer, they many times make a choice. From today forward, I'm going to live until I die. I'm going to live these last weeks, months, years with everything I've got. And that's what I want you to experience too. And I don't want you to, I want this to be a no guilt trip place for you too. I don't want you to, no regrets. Are you kidding me? You can't live with any regrets. Think about it. When at the end of your days, if you said, I wish I would have taken that trip. I wish I would have asked that lady out. I wish I would have stayed in my marriage. I wish. Whatever. Do it. No regrets. No guilt trips. And then how about this one? The people that are in your life that do love you, that you do love, do you tell them that you love them as often as you can? You better. You better tell people you love them. Often. You got to tell people you love them. And I want to finish the show here about living until you die with a quote. A quote. I almost said it earlier. And I want you to think about it. And I want you to kind of maybe dwell on it a little bit. Because it really is the essence of what we've been talking about here. Life is not measured by the number of breaths you take each and every day. It's not. But by the moments in your life that take our breath away. So whatever that is, maybe it's the birth of your child or your grandchild. For me, those have been amazing memories. Or the first time I stepped up to the Grand Canyon and looked at that trail and went, or the first time I came out of there after a solo adventure. Or the first time you saw somebody that walked, that was told they can never walk again. Takes your breath away. But if you don't do things to take your breath away, you're just breathing. So we can all live until we die, but we have to make a choice. And that's what living's all about. All right, guys. Thanks again for another great show on the Health, Love, and Life and Adventure show. We'll be back in a couple weeks, and we'll do another show on the Grand Canyon because I'm getting ready to experience a phenomenal adventure there that I want to share with you guys. All right. I love you. And thanks again. And I'll see you next time.